Working outside today here at the shop. What we're dealing with here today is an electric pump motor for an E47, Meyers E47 Elecrolift snowplow pump assembly. So we got a problem. The motor checks out for voltage. The the output is there, but the motor is just really slow. A lot of people say transmission fluid is a no-no, and I kind of have to agree with that. So if you got yourself a plow and you just noticed to yourself there that it's been filled with transmission fluid, usually Dexron, it will work, but when minus 20 starts to come around, this little electric pump here is going to be working itself mighty hard. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change this, because mine is pretty well toast. This is very easy. There's only 2 bolts holding the unit in. But if you guys are noticing that your plow pump is really sluggish, I go with this stuff. This is by this Snowplow Aftermarket Manufacturing. This stuff here, the part number, somebody changed the part number on it. I guess it had the wrong part number, but part number 1307010. It's the low temp minus 50. So if you're in northern Minnesota or even in Canada like I am, you're going to want to grab yourself some of this. The shop, we've had a cold snap here. Actually, Niagara Falls ended up freezing halfway through, which I don't think has ever happened. But then again, things on CNN, I don't know if they're all true either. They seem, well, you know what? They did take 5 minutes away from Donald Trump for a minute to talk about it. So, but if you notice, like even sitting in the shop here, it was really cold in here. This stuff is like absolutely like water. And so anyway, even with my old worn out motor, I did notice some much improvements. So anyway, this is a new motor. They are not that expensive. I think I paid 70 bucks for this. So I mean, it is an aftermarket motor. This isn't a Meyers motor, but who cares? I'm going to keep the old one as a backup just in case. And it's just there should be an O-ring inside between the pump and the base, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe there isn't. There is no fluid in this general area. All there is a little mandrel, and it's just driven off of that basically once you remove it. But we'll show you that in a minute. And we'll just get started here. Trying to warm up here. It's a real bad cold snap here. Feels like January. I hate it actually. Okay, so unboxing our new electric pump motor. You're going to notice that it comes with new fasteners. We have 2 new ones here. You're going to notice that they put nuts on them, on the bottom ends. I'm assuming just to hold the bolts from getting lost while they ship it or whatever. You're not going to need those, so just take those out and go ahead and freeze your petunia sitting outside trying to change one of these. Alright, so starting off with the basics, I disconnected the main power lead to the electric motor assembly. I definitely don't want any current going to this. It could ground out against something, and just, start shorting things out. So 11 mil, starting off with the basics, I'm going to disconnect this before I lose complete feeling in my hand. Disconnect that, and then 11/32. No, what is it? 3/8 to remove the top fasteners up top here. And once you got both fasteners loosened off, just pull the unit out, just like so. Now, because this unit did get fairly hot, mainly because I was working it hard trying to get it to get the blade to lift, the unit did overheat quite severely. Now the unit still does work. There's still ample current going to it. There doesn't seem to be anything current-wise the matter here. Ground cables and all other connectors are free of corrosion. It's another thing too you want to check for. All that stuff tested okay, so the motor more than likely is just wore out in this case. But I am going to keep it just as a backup, mainly because it did work, briefly anyway. It did have its moments, but it still did test okay at the end of the day. It still got the yard cleaned up. So I'm going to keep it as a backup just for temporarily. And if you're going to do the same, you might want to take a set of masking tape, and once this unit warms up, the tape won't stick right now obviously, but take a piece of masking tape, put the date on it, and if you tested it, write down the voltage, the ohms, write down that it tested okay, just so you know, like a lot of people who have a fleet of trucks, you could easily have half a dozen or more of these things sitting on your workbench. And well, these pumps were definitely out there, so I mean, you can definitely have a few of them sitting in your workshop, and then you mix them up and one doesn't work, and then when one dies on you, you go and accidentally put an old electric pump motor in. Alright, so the new motor, the bolts that come with it require a different size fastener, just a 10 mil, in order to get that all straightened up. And simple as that, just tighten them down in sequence, and basically that's all there is to it. Hook up your electrical leads. At least there's a ray of light to try and keep me warm over here. And just snug them up. Don't have to be overly tight. Alright, so the thermostat is still bottomed out at 0. That's as far as it goes. It's been running for an hour. So once you get all that set up, you want to let your truck, you want to start your truck. Don't try and test the new motor with the engine off. It draws too much amps. I mean, it'll draw the battery dead. Especially with it being this cold. If you have a gasoline powered engine, a 350, you only have one battery under there. Maybe you have a higher torque alternator, but I mean, you'll still risk the battery going dead. So we'll give it a start up here in a minute, as soon as I warm up my hands, and we'll try our new pump motor. Don't forget to let your glow plug cycle. There's a reason why this does this. It doesn't necessarily mean there's an issue with it. Alright, so after a little bit more investigating, the brushes are more than likely done in this, so I'm actually just going to take it out of service. The price of the new one really outweighs the cost of keeping one of these around here, so I'm just going to take this out of service instead, and I'll buy a new one. I mean, 70 bucks. They're not expensive, and it will work just fine. So kind of just doing a little trial run here. We didn't get any snow. We got a little bit of a skiff, but not a lot to really worry about trying to plow. So I'm just on float. I'm just idling by here, kind of getting rid of the slush that was falling off various vehicles that were parked in the yard here. So I'm just dragging some fresh powder to the end of the yard. I'm also looking at my volt gauge because I'm curious more or less to see what my amps are drawing, and it's really considerably amount less. Let's just give you a demonstration here. Like, I mean, the gauge does drop. fluid is cold, you know, but it still moves amazingly, considering, you know, we've had such frigid temperatures. The truck had a hard time starting today, but I let the blade down just for demonstrational purposes here, and then we try and lift it back up. I think it's, you know, night and day compared to the old one. But anyway, if you guys ever have a problem with your old E47 Meyers pumps, you know, definitely if you do a rebuild, which is usually a good idea, change all the filters. There's 3 filters inside of them. You know, 2 of them at the block. There's 1 inside there. Also, once you take the cylinder off, you know, it's definitely worth your while to rebuild them. They don't make them anymore, but they definitely have parts readily available, even right from Meyers, plus the aftermarket world too. You can definitely get tons of parts in that aspect. But you know, just taking it for a trial run here, I mean, it's working perfect. Like it goes up much faster if you're working it, but the minute the fluid gets cold, especially in this temperature, it starts to slow down a little bit, but it really is working great. Anyway, lads and lassies, have yourself a good one. Happy New Year. Take care.